All right, buckle up everybody, because today we're diving headfirst into a world of government secrets.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, it is. We're talking UFOs, or as they're officially called now, UAPs.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
That's the one. And we've got some seriously juicy sources for you today.
Juicy is right.
It's all about a recent attempt to pry some photos out of the Navy's hands. Pictures of these mysterious UAPs.
Yeah, I've been following this one closely.
Imagine, like, 78 or more potential snapshots of UAPs just locked away.
That's what we're gonna unpack today.
What could they show?
Yeah.
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
That's what we're here to find out.
All right, so first things first, our main source for this deep dive is the Black Vault.
Ah, the Black Vault, a treasure trove of declassified documents.
Exactly. They've been doing amazing work for years, like peeling back the layers of government secrecy.
Shining a light where others fear to tread.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So they filed a Freedom of Information Act request, that's FOIA,
The people's tool for government transparency.
asking the Navy, hey, what kind of UAP photos do you have tucked away? You know, FOIA, it's a powerful tool.
It is. It's meant to hold those in power accountable.
Promote transparency, let the public see what's going on.
Exactly. But, it's not a magic wand.
It's not a guaranteed yes to every question.
Right. Agencies can and often do deny these requests.
And that's what happened here. But, and here's where it gets interesting.
Oh, there's always a but.
The timing of this denial is, well, suspicious.
Suspicious how?
Okay, get this. The Navy denied this request just hours, literally hours, before a big congressional hearing on government secrecy.
No way. About UAPs.
About UAPs specifically. Talked about a coincidence, right?
That timing, it definitely raises some eyebrows.
It's like they were trying to sweep it under the rug before things got too heated.
Congress has been getting more and more vocal about this whole UAP secrecy thing.
They want answers, and they want them now.
This denial, right before hearing on that exact topic, it seems like a slap in the face.
It does, doesn't it? So let's get down to brass tacks. What did the Navy actually say?
Okay, so they confirmed that they found 78 documents that could potentially be related to the request.
78 documents? That's a lot of potential photos.
Well, hold on. It's not that straightforward.
What do you mean?
These documents, they could be anything from a single photo to a whole report with multiple images.
So we don't know the exact number of pictures?
Nope. We're talking potentially dozens of images, maybe even more.
All potentially showing, UAPs in action?
Maybe, maybe not. We don't know what they show because they won't release them.
Okay, that's frustrating. So why the secrecy?
Their main justification was Exemption B1, which allows them to withhold information that could harm national security.
Exemption B1. Sounds kind of vague, doesn't it?
It is a broad exemption, yeah, but it's not a free pass to hide everything.
Give me an example, like when would it be legit to use this exemption?
Okay, imagine the government has pictures of a top-secret submarine base, detailing its location, its defenses.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad if that got out.
Releasing those photos could put national security at risk.
Absolutely. So the Navy's saying these UAP photos are like that, too risky to reveal.
That's their argument. They're saying releasing these pictures could expose sensitive military operations.
Or reveal vulnerabilities in our defense systems.
Right, or even compromise intelligence sources and methods.
So basically they're saying national security trumps our right to know.
They're saying it's essential to keep this information under wraps.
But is it really? That's the question, isn't it?
And to justify it even further, they brought out the big guns, the UAP Security Classification Guide.
Ooh, sounds serious. What is that exactly?
It's the rule book for how the government categorizes information about UAPs.
What gets classified, at what level of secrecy, all that jazz.
Precisely. And here's the kicker.
There's always a kicker.
This guide, it's heavily redacted. We don't even know the full extent of what they're classifying.
We're in the dark about the rules that keep us in the dark.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It creates a sense of, opaqueness. How can we assess if their decisions are legit if we don't even know the rules?
All right, so we've got the national security argument. We've got this super secret classification guide.
Right, but let's get specific. What exactly could these photos reveal according to the Navy?
Yeah, do they give any concrete examples?
They did. They claim releasing the photos could, like I said, expose sensitive military operations.
Compromise intelligence sources.
Yep. Potentially reveal vulnerabilities in our defense systems.
So on one hand, we have a legitimate need for national security.
On the other hand, we have this intense public interest in UAPs.
And a growing demand for transparency.
It's a tough situation.
It's like a tug of war
Yeah.
between the public's right to know and the government's need to protect its secrets.
And it's happening against the backdrop of this incredibly mysterious phenomenon, UAPs.
Which, of course, only adds fuel to the fire.
Exactly. We're dealing with something we don't fully understand, so naturally people have questions.
They want answers, and they deserve them.
And speaking of answers, remember that congressional hearing I mentioned earlier?
The one that happened right before the Navy denied these photos.
Yeah, that hearing was all about this tension
Between government secrecy and the public's right to know about UAPs.
It's a key piece of the puzzle.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dives. Stay tuned.
Can't wait. So that congressional hearing, right, the one we were just talking about.
Yeah, the one about government secrecy around UAPs.
It had quite the title, let me tell you.
Something dramatic, I bet.
Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Exposing the Truth.
Wow, they really went for it, huh?
That title alone tells you Congress isn't messing around anymore.
They're tired of the secrecy. They want some answers. Yeah.
Exactly. And it wasn't just politicians grandstanding.
Oh, who else showed up?
You had former intelligence officials, scientists, researchers.
Real experts, people who know their stuff.
Oh, yeah, some serious heavy hitters. And even a journalist, Michael Schellenberger.
I know that name. He does some great investigative work.
He's been pretty vocal about this whole UAP transparency thing.
So they had a pretty impressive lineup for this hearing.
They did. And the message was clear. The government's been too secretive for too long.
About UAPs specifically.
Yeah. And they argued that this lack of transparency is actually hurting us.
Hurting us how?
It's hindering scientific progress, for one.
Because scientists don't have access to all the data.
Right. And it breeds distrust, feeds all these conspiracy theories.
When people don't have the facts, they start filling in the gaps themselves.
And that can be dangerous. Some even argue it's a national security risk.
Well,
if we don't understand these UAPs, how can we know if they're a threat?
that's a good point. But the government always says they need to keep things secret for national security reasons, right?
They do. But several witnesses at the hearing pushed back on that.
They said.
They argued that national security is often used as a blanket excuse to classify everything,
Even when it's not really necessary.
especially when it comes to UAPs. They said the government is too quick to slap a secret label on anything remotely related.
Sounds familiar. Like with those photos we were talking about.
Exactly. What if some of that information could be released without actually harming national security?
That's what I'm wondering.
And that's what a lot of the witnesses were arguing.
They think the public deserves to know more.
And that releasing more information would actually benefit everyone.
It would let scientists study the phenomenon properly.
Help debunk some of the crazier theories out there.
And maybe even build some trust between the public and the government.
It's all connected. But did they offer any concrete solutions?
Like how to achieve that balance between transparency and security.
Oh, yeah. They had some ideas.
Tell me.
They talked about creating a centralized database for UAP reports.
A place where everyone could access the information.
Exactly. Standardizing the procedures for collecting and analyzing UAP data.
So we're all on the same page.
Right. And more collaboration between the government, scientists, and the public.
Working together to solve this mystery.
That was the idea. So what did the government folks at the hearing have to say about all this?
Do they promise any changes?
Not really. They gave the typical vague, non-committal responses.
Acknowledge the public's interest, stress the importance of national security, but no real action plan.
Not yet, anyway. But the hearing itself was a big deal.
It put the issue front and center.
Forced the government to at least acknowledge the public's concerns.
And the fact that it happened at the same time as the Navy photo denial,
Yeah, that's not a coincidence.
it shows the disconnect between what Congress is asking for and what the government is actually doing.
Like they're talking past each other.
And that just fuels more distrust, more suspicion.
People start wondering what they're hiding.
And speaking of hiding things, remember that journalist, Michael Schellenberger?
The one who testified.
He did something pretty dramatic at the hearing, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he held up a stack of UAP task force briefing documents.
But they were completely redacted.
So heavily blacked out, you could barely see anything.
It was like a visual representation of the secrecy problem.
Exactly. He was making a point about how overclassification is hindering our understanding of UAPs.
And that moment, it really resonated with people.
It did. It was a powerful image.
Okay, so let's get back to those photos that were denied. What if they were released? What impact do you think that would have?
That's a tough one. It would definitely be a major development.
The first time the government officially released photos of UAPs.
It would be huge, but it depends on what the photos actually show.
What if they're blurry, inconclusive?
That's a possibility. It might not be the smoking gun that everyone's hoping for.
It could even fuel more speculation.
That's true. But even if they're not perfect, those photos would still be valuable.
There'd be data points, pieces of the puzzle,
And right now, we need all the pieces we can get.
to get a clearer picture of what we're dealing with.
Exactly. More information, more transparency. That's what we need.
So maybe those photos wouldn't solve the mystery.
But they could be a big step in the right direction.
Right now, though, they're locked away. And we're left to wonder.
It's frustrating, but it's not over yet.
What do you mean?
The Black Vault, they're not giving up.
Really? What are they doing?
They filed an appeal to challenge the Navy's decision.
So they're fighting to get those photos released.
They're arguing that the public has a right to see them.
Good for them. It's a long shot, but I admire their persistence.
It's an uphill battle, but you never know.
We'll have to wait and see what happens.
And in the meantime, this whole situation tells us a lot about the government's attitude toward UAP transparency.
It's not exactly encouraging, is it?
They seem to be doubling down on secrecy.
Even in the face of all this pressure from Congress and the public.
It could be that they're just being cautious.
Taking the issue more seriously now, realizing the potential implications.
Or maybe they're just digging in their heels.
Afraid of what might happen if they open the floodgates.
It's hard to say for sure.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out.
But one thing's for certain.
This UAP saga is far from over.
Not by a long shot.
You know, it's pretty wild how much this whole UAP thing has changed over the years.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it used to be all, like, grainy photos and fringe theories, you know?
Yeah, kind of taboo to even talk about it.
Right. But now, you've got Congress holding hearings, scientists getting involved.
It's gone mainstream.
Big time. What do you think? What's been the biggest shift?
I think it's the public perception, right? Like, it's finally okay to take this stuff seriously.
Yeah, the stigma's definitely fading.
It had to, I mean, we're talking about something potentially huge here.
The possibility of, like, alien life, other civilizations.
It could change everything we know about the universe, about ourselves.
No, small potatoes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's also part of the challenge.
What do you mean?
With all the secrecy, the misinformation out there.
Yeah, it's tough to know what to believe sometimes.
It's hard to separate fact from fiction.
So what's the biggest hurdle, you think, in getting to the bottom of this UAP mystery?
I'd say it's that stigma we were just talking about, the one that's been hanging over UFOs for decades.
Oh, yeah, like, if you believe in UFOs, you're automatically a cook.
Right. And that's made it hard to have honest conversations, to do real research.
People were afraid to speak up, afraid to be ridiculed.
And that probably scared off a lot of potential witnesses, people with valuable information.
So we might be missing out on crucial pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. But thankfully, I think things are finally starting to change.
Yeah, it feels like the tide is turning.
You see more serious news coverage now, scientists willing to put their reputations on the line.
Even the government's being a little more open, at least acknowledging that UAPs are a real thing.
It's a step in the right direction.
Definitely. But we're still a long way from, like, full transparency.
Oh yeah, there's still a lot of secrecy, a lot of unanswered questions.
And that makes it tough to figure out what we're actually dealing with.
Especially when it comes to, the potential threats.
Right. Like, are UAPs alien spacecraft? Are they some kind of advanced tech from another country? What's the real deal?
That's a million-dollar question, isn't it?
And there are some pretty wild theories out there.
Oh yeah, everything from extraterrestrial visitors to, like, interdimensional beings.
So how do we approach this, with an open mind, but also with a healthy dose of skepticism?
Exactly. We have to consider all the possibilities, but we can't jump to conclusions.
We can't just assume that every weird light in the sky is an alien spaceship.
Right. We need evidence. We need data.
Solid proof, not just speculation.
The extraterrestrial hypothesis is definitely fascinating, but we can't let it blind us.
We have to consider other explanations, too.
Like what?
Well, like you said, some UAPs could be advanced technology from another country.
It's possible, yeah. Some of them might be experimental aircraft or drones.
But we can't just blame everything on our rivals.
Exactly. We need to be careful not to fall into that trap.
It's important to stay objective, to let the evidence lead the way.
And speaking of evidence, what kind of data do we actually have on UAPs?
Yeah, what are we working with here?
Well, we've got eyewitness accounts, radar data, photographs, videos.
A whole mixed bag.
Some of it's more reliable than others, of course.
But it all needs to be looked at. analyzed.
We can't just dismiss anything out of hand.
Every piece of the puzzle is important.
Exactly. And that brings us back to those photos the Navy is keeping under wraps.
Oh yeah, those. What if we could actually see them? Do you think they could help us solve the mystery?
Well, it's hard to say without knowing what they show.
But they could be really valuable, right?
Oh, yeah, potentially. If they're clear, detailed, they could tell us a lot,
About the shapes of UAPs, their sizes, how they move.
which could then help us narrow down the possible explanations.
So maybe those photos wouldn't give us all the answers,
Probably not.
but they could at least point us in the right direction.
Help us focus our research.
Eliminate some possibilities, maybe confirm others.
Exactly. We need all the data we can get our hands on.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll actually get to see those photos.
Here's hoping.
It would be a big step towards transparency, towards finally getting some answers.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key takeaway is this. The UAP phenomenon is real.
It's not just science fiction.
It's complex, and it deserves our attention.
It's something we need to take seriously.
We need to be open-minded, but also critical.
We need to demand more transparency from our government.
And we need to keep searching for the truth.
Even if it's out there, somewhere in the stars.
The truth is out there.
I like that. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of UAPs and government secrecy.
It's been a pleasure.
Remember, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring the unknown. Until next time, stay curious.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge it.